And Tom has been a tireless advocate for young people and all people with Down syndrome and other developmental disabilities. He is also the chairman of the Joint Committee on Higher Education, where he's done great work for the state's public universities and community colleges. So, without further ado, please join me in welcoming State Representative Tom Sannicandro.
Thank you, everybody. It's great to be here, and I'm just so excited to be here. Today is our first Massachusetts Down Syndrome Congress Day, and we got a great turnout, so I want to thank you all for being here. I particularly want to thank Senator Dick Moore, who's joined us as well, who's been a tireless advocate. I have a prepared speech here, but I'm going to veer off a little bit. I just want to start with where we were. I actually was on the board of the Mass Down Syndrome Congress, I think it was 29 years ago, when we were meeting in people's living rooms and trying to figure out what we were going to do. I think that the issue for us, and I think the most striking thing of that organization and that group of families that were together 29, 30 years ago was we had no vision for what people with Down syndrome's potential was. We didn't understand what could happen with people with Down syndrome. We didn't know what the potential was because we were at a point in history where there was no measure for how people with Down syndrome could move ahead. I think that for what we see today, and the dramatic changes and the dramatic empowerment of people with Down syndrome, I don't think we could have even dreamed that in those meetings we had. To see what's happened over these 30 years has been mind-blowing, to say the least. A lot of it has to do with what you folks in your organization is doing today. Advocating for yourselves, advocating for people with Down syndrome, advocating for empowerment and laws to do that. One of the biggest laws that occurred here in Massachusetts was the first special education law in the country that was passed by this legislature in 1972. The benefits of that you've already heard from. John Anton was about 6 or 7 years old when that law was passed. He had the opportunity to be educated with everyone else in this community and receive the same quality education that everybody else did. That's why John is able to be here today and to deliver speeches from this podium and work in my office as a paid staffer. But given what we've seen with education and the opportunity for individuals with Down syndrome, John is not the only example in the State House at this point, surprisingly. We have Melissa Riley, who is on the staff of Senator Eldridge's office. We also have Brian Heffernan somewhere. I think Brian's here. We know he's working. Brian is also paid staff who works for a number of representatives, including the Speaker of the House, Bob DeLeo. Who's going to join us today. The other piece, I want to talk about some other legislation, and I guess I have all day. The other thing is that I want to talk about is when we talk about education and we talk about opportunity, one of the things that we again in Massachusetts are breaking through is having public education, public higher education for people with intellectual disabilities. Brian Heffernan was one of the people that was able to do that and attended Mass Bay Community College in an inclusive setting, taking classes with non-disabled peers. So we're seeing an explosion of opportunity for individuals with intellectual disabilities or developmental disabilities. We now have students, I believe the number is about 700 students have been through that program, educated all through our public system, through the University of Massachusetts system, the State University, and the community college. For many of us, including people in this room, the idea or the concept of higher education for people with intellectual disabilities seems like some type of a conflict. But for those of us that study higher education, we know that higher education gives opportunity and advancement and employment opportunities for everyone. And those doors cannot be closed to individuals with intellectual disabilities. They have to be open to everybody, because in order for this Commonwealth to be strong, everybody has to have the opportunity to contribute. That's why we're doing this. Two more points after that, and I'll get out of here. The first one is that thanks to this organization, as I said, that began with a couple folks or parents in a room, has grown to a powerful national organization. Much of that is attributed to the leadership of Maureen Gallagher, who is the executive director now. And part of the work that we did, all of us together, the organization, was to pass the first in the country groundbreaking legislation requiring medical professionals to provide accurate, up-to-date information to expectant parents who receive a diagnosis of Down syndrome. There are other states now looking at our models, looking at possibly enacting the same type of legislation in their states. We were the first state to do this. Many of you were actually in the room when Governor Patrick signed that piece of legislation into law. The last piece I need to talk to you about is today we're advocating for the National Background Check Bill. What you need to do is to go and speak to your representatives and your senators. Tell them the story of your lives and why this bill is important to you and why everything we do here is important to you. They will listen to you, and it's important that you do that. I also want to welcome State Representative Gail Caridi, who's here. But I want to thank you all for coming out today. Remember, this is your house. This is the people's house. The representatives and senators here are here in service to you. Tell them what you and your families need from them. Thank you very much.